All right, and we are live. Welcome back, viewers, and welcome back, Chef Kevin. Good to see you.
Yeah, no, it's great to see you, Chef David. And just before we dive into what I think is going to be this super fascinating discussion, I'm reading here AI recipes to boost your business. I just always feel like, I need to say these are recipes for your mind. I mean, we understand, recipes. These are tips and tricks that are going to make you better understand AI. And obviously on the live show, we're going to cover off the news. But with that said, Chef David,
Brain
I don't know.
food.
Yes, food. Yes, exactly. So this is, I don't know. I'm super excited to kind of have this discussion. Um, Last week on Tuesday's show, we it was just the beginning of Microsoft Ignite, and we talked because the embargo had just lifted, so we gave a 1 hour, before the keynote, we kind of previewed all the topics, and that happened, and there was some pushback, right, on some of the things that Microsoft announced, and some pretty harsh pushback. Yeah, exactly. So do you want to say anything to start? Because then otherwise I'll go to the first slide because I
No,
think,
should we? I'm
in
ready to
my
jump in.
opinion, okay.
All
Yeah,
right.
yeah, yeah. So in my opinion, this story, although it really kind of came out at Ignite last week, I see this story started back in April because Microsoft does this work trend index. This is a great survey that they do. I mean, it's really good research. Um, they survey like 31,000 employees across all these different, countries, and they put out this report. This was the in April of 2025, talking about this frontier firm. And so go to the next slide because this is where I think we then got the focus on agentic. So the journey to the frontier firm, they talked about there's these three phases. First, you work with an AI assistant, which you're really good at treating AI as an assistant. So kind of that's phase one. And I'm going to argue not, maybe not everybody's in phase one yet, but then they had this idea of phase two where you have human and agent teams. So we now manage, like if you're what they call an agent boss, we now manage people as a supervisor, but you also have these agents that you manage. And then phase three is like most of everything is run by agents, but they kindly still say that it's human led before the agents kick us out. But so that's this journey to the frontier firm. So back in April, like Microsoft was all doubling down on agents. And I think if you go to the next slide, we shared this yesterday. I got Copilot to do a word cloud for the book of news. And not surprisingly, of all the announcements, this is all the announcements that Ignite last week, agent was the key thing. And this meant that they went to, if you go to the next slide, this thing, basically Microsoft Foundry, which was really all of Ignite, most of Ignite, not all of it, but most of it was around tools to help you create and manage and control your agent workforce. Um, because Microsoft thought on the next slide, Chef David, that by 2028, so that's like really almost just 2 years from now, because we're almost at the end of 2025,
A lot of
uh,
agents.
1.3 billion agents in use. And also, this is, yeah. So I don't know. I mean, I don't know if there'll be that many agents, but certainly Microsoft and all of their announcements and tooling was assuming this, and someone else estimated that the AI agent market. So I think we should create a AI chef's agent for sure, because by 2030, supposedly the AI agent market will hit $50 billion, right? So
Phew.
everybody needs an AI chef's agent for sure, I think, Chef David.
Absolutely. Or two.
So yeah, so anyway, so that's the setup. It started in April, it followed through. Microsoft thinks there's going to be billions of agents, and 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 so everything that they did, including Windows as an agentic OS. If you go to the next slide, this did not necessarily go over well.
Reddit was not happy,
Yes, so let's talk about
to
that.
put it
So
nicely.
yes, so okay, so Microsoft, uh, one of the what you know that this chief person of Windows said Windows 11 is going to be an agentic OS. So what did that mean to you, Chef David, and what was your takeaway from Reddit? And then I think I've got a couple of choice tweets that gave their feedback. So
Well, I think part of the problem is that Windows 11 is a very, very touchy subject for me right now because there are, oh, I forgot the numbers, but the numbers of people globally who are on Windows 10 and are now being told, you're vulnerable. You're
right,
vulnerable. Too bad. Buy a new computer. Your computer can't handle Windows 11. We're not supporting Windows 10. And I know, yeah, there's an extension thing and blah, blah, blah. But basically,
yeah, Microsoft wants everybody. They want and they're
they're
coercing
trying to force us
everybody to
onto
move to Windows.
11. And at the meantime 11's, we're having, I'm not saying it's Vista bad yet, but I'm starting to think I don't want to switch because in my streaming software, I'm hearing people having problems with the streaming software freezing up and having issues on Windows 11. And I'm hearing a lot
Right.
of other things about Windows 11. I'm hearing about, I mean, basic things, the taskbar breaking, core functions not working. And what I wanted to hear is we're tripling down on making Windows 11, the best. People liked Windows 10, which is, people like a Windows. There's some Windows we like. We like Windows XP, right? Windows 2000. There's some Windows we liked. And 10 was good. And 11, I don't want to hear anything about Agentic OS. I want to hear you fixing 11.
Yeah, so this article basically talks about this backlash. It was on and 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 it's never good when you basically put up a tweet and then you have to turn off replies because it's not going. So I captured the original tweet. So this article talks about it, but I wanted to kind of go to the original source. So if you go to the next slide here. So this is Pavan is Microsoft's Window and Devices chief. So he put out this tweet saying it's evolving into an agentic OS and whatever that means. And anyway, so the thing that I took away from this is you'll see that so his original tweet got 344 likes. Okay. Every single one of these responses, there was 482 responses. Every single one of the top, I don't know, I scrolled through the top 50 responses got more likes and they were not happy. Like,
Yeah.
if you look at some of these, people need a stable OS on the computers they own, not, whatever. You can't correctly implement small taskbar icons. Why don't you focus on that? I mean, what the F are you even talking about? I don't want any of that, right? I mean, it's like it
It
is
was
not,
brutal.
it's evolving it's evolving into a product that's driving people to Mac and Linux. That got 4,000 likes.
Yeah.
So this is why, the comments were shut off. I mean, the last comment in the lower left, I think this is was good because this person said, and I think that this is true, maybe you should pay attention to the anonymously negative replies here and adjust your goals accordingly. I mean, that got 725 likes, like double the original post. So clearly, I mean, and as you pointed out, Chef David, Reddit was equally, all the upvoted ones were equally negative,
Brutal.
brutal. Yes,
Brutal. It
yeah.
was fun. It was fun. Reddit can be
Yeah,
fun
so
sometimes.
So, the thing is, what do you think? Like we were talking about this yesterday, um, when we were just planning for this show. Is Microsoft, are they wrong or are they just too far ahead of the market? You talked about the different versions of Windows, like Windows versions would come out in the past and they required more memory than most people had. And there was then, backlash because the new version of Windows ran really slow on your computer till you got a new computer. So, is Windows as an agentic OS, is everybody when there's 1.3 billion agents in 2028, if that comes to pass, will we all say, oh, thank goodness that Microsoft back in 2025 had the foresight to make Windows 11 this wonderful agentic OS? Or like some of these responses in Reddit, have they totally kind of taken the wrong fork in the road? What do you think, Chef David?
Well, I mean, if either of us knew for sure,
No, I know,
we'd be
but
the oracle. It is predicting the future, and the thing is, we will look back and see, and it could go either of two ways. And there's two. I'll keep it short, but yeah, we're live. We can go a little bit long. I have two
yeah,
really great stories that show either way it could be, and one is the Steve Jobs story, and Google. After you finish watching us, go to YouTube and look up Steve Jobs response to critic. There's a famous clip where someone he had just come back to Apple after he
right.
famously left, and he came back and he was making a lot of changes that people didn't like. And someone stood up and had a question and said, Steve, obviously you're brilliant and you're smart and da da da, but, and Steve's like, okay, here's it coming. And he holds up a chair. He's like, okay, because he's smart. He knew it was coming. And the guy tore him apart. And he said, if you're shutting down this product that it was something open doc, something doc, I don't remember what it was, something share, something that didn't exist anymore after Steve Jobs got back. And like he was like, it does things that nothing else can do. It's brilliant. It's beautiful. We're using it. The fact that you're shutting it down shows you have no idea what you're talking about. And Steve Jobs gave this beautiful reply. You all have to watch this. And he said, maybe you're right. Maybe you're right about that thing. But he had reasons for, overall strategy, what kind of company we're going to be, and da 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 da. That product might be great, but it's not going to get us 200 million users. We need 200 million users, that kind of stuff. And he turned out to be right, even though everyone was angry at him and they were all saying this kind of stuff. It sounded just like this. Jobs was right and the people were wrong. On the other hand, the other story, there's a company called Blizzard that makes a game called Diablo that people love. And Diablo 1 was legendary. Diablo 2, I lost myself in years for Diablo 2. It's such a good game. Diablo 2 is such a good game. And Diablo 3 was a little disappointing. So everybody was really having their hopes up for Diablo 4, really psyched about it, wanted it to be back to what it used to be. And Blizzard had a big convention and they announced that Diablo 4 was going to be a mobile game. And everyone went, oh, it's going to be our wonderful franchise that we love on our desktops with our friends talking to in beautiful graphics and immersed world. It's going to be a little, and everybody started booing him. And the guy, and this clip has been shown over and over and over again. The guy goes, what, none of you have phones? He was wrong and the people were right. So sometimes you get the Steve Jobs. Is this a Steve Jobs situation where Microsoft knows more than us? In 2 years, they're going to be looking back and we're going to be saying, Agentic OS is obviously what we needed all along. Right. We were silly to question it. Or is this Diablo 4 on the phone? I don't know.
Yeah, no, that's good. I love, like, I don't think I've seen the Diablo 4 clip, but you're more of a gamer than I am, even though I started writing video games for the Commodore 64 a long time ago. But the Steve Jobs clip, because you brought that up before, and I've watched it several times, and it is very good. So yes,
amazing, right?
As you said, after you're done watching this, go and check that out. I do want to go. Let's go to the next screen because Mustafa Suleyman, who was one of the Google DeepMind co-founders, and then and now has become the president of Microsoft AI. So he responded to all of this, like really kind of doubling down on like what the potential and I would say the coolness of AI is. And so, he's just making the contrast when, we used to have Snake on the Nokia phone and now you can have this like fluent conversation. Like it's very, it seems very natural. You can talk to Copilot on your phone. And generate all these, well, I don't know, fake videos. It's mind-blowing. It's also kind of sometimes scary because we can't tell what's real. But
our beautiful kitchen.
Yeah, well, that's
in
yeah,
one
there you
second.
go. We couldn't I certainly have no artistic ability to create
I
this.
couldn't have
So,
made this.
okay, so there you go. So it allows you to do things that are mind-blowing. I really like, Mustafa Suleyman. The interesting thing is, he wrote a book and I read it and it came out in October of 2023. It was called The Coming Wave. So go to the next slide because I found this fascinating. I just did this this morning. So it's called The Coming Wave. So the one at the top is the current version, and it says he's the president of Microsoft. And I'm like, but that's not the version that I bought because he wasn't the president of Microsoft AI at the time. It's the lower one. And in the lower version there, like you can see, it says technology power in the 21st century's greatest dilemma. So um, it was much more biased towards the potential harm that AI could do. I've shown on the
Pessimistic.
screen, and I asked Copilot and Gemini, because of course I did, I'm an AI chef. I said, hey, can you compare and contrast this book versus what Mustafa Suleyman has publicly, has publicly published since he's become the president of Microsoft. And certainly, the book was about, as is highlighted and read here, Suleyman repeatedly issues a stark warning, arguing that too much attention is given to the benefits at the expense of the risks of AI. And in fact, he called this pessimism aversion, like we're all afraid to look at the downside of AI. So this coming wave was not a feel good. It was like, okay, things are going to go wrong in many different ways with synthetic biology and bad actors. And he described this as the most crucial challenge in the 21st century. But if you go to the next slide, this is really where I said, hey, compare and contrast. And so now he has what Copilot describes as pragmatic optimism. While he still acknowledged the risk, he focuses on the practical deployment. So, I mean, not to kind of, I don't know, that's what people do when they have a
Look,
job. You become,
it's not just a job. You know how much they're paying him? I mean, come on.
no,
He's a
no,
human being
exactly.
at the end of the day. You can't help. That kind of money is gonna seep into your brain and influence your feelings on things a little bit. I can't blame the guy.
Yeah, no, no.
We're
And,
not just
and,
talking
and
about millions here, right? I mean, we're talking crazy money.
No, no, I agree. So anyway, I thought that this was interesting. I asked Copilot because and I didn't try to lead it. I said, "Hey, could you compare and contrast? Has there been any change?" And this is what effectively it said is that he pushes back, on the cynicism, calling skeptics, you know, and it actually had that quote from the previous tweet where he did push back, saying, "Hey, you should all find this mind blowing." So, you know, I don't know. I think this is fascinating. So let's go to the big wide kitchen shot and
Well, real quick, a couple
yeah,
thoughts on this.
yeah.
This he has a point, but whenever someone selling a product says, "Why don't you appreciate how great my product is?" That's a problem. That's you can't blame the consumer. If the consumers back in the turn of the 2 centuries ago, wow, are we old? We're like, why do we need this big loud thing that you put the smelly gasoline in that instead of just riding our horses? Um, you wouldn't say, no, you're wrong. You should like a car better. You'd say, Mr. Ford, you're not communicating the value of the car very
That's a
well.
great point. I love that point, Chef David.
Um, it remind and another thing, but and it's human nature for us to be easily not complacent, but to start to take things for granted. There's a great bit, Louis C.K., controversial comedian. He did some not so good things, but he has this brilliant bit. And this is from back in, it must be like 15, 20 years ago when Wi-Fi was first on airplanes, when Wi-Fi was still kind of a new thing. And he said he was sitting on an airplane and the stewardess came in and she said, we have something new on this plane that we're testing out. It's not even, no one's even heard about this, but it's Wi-Fi on this airplane. And it was like, oh my God, we never had Wi-Fi. That's great. And we're going to turn it on in a few minutes, see how it works. And a few minutes later, she gets back on and it goes, hey, I'm sorry, everyone. We can't get the system working. The test isn't going to work. We're not going to have the Wi-Fi. And the guy next to Louis C.K. goes, "Oh, well, that's just great."
Yeah,
Here's this thing that he didn't even know existed 5 minutes ago, and now he's all put out because he can't have it. It's so yeah. Of course, the fact that I can chat with Chat GPT or Gemini, and when it says something dumb, instead of being like the fact that it's even having a conversation with me is amazing. I'm like, I can't wait to tell Kevin what ChatGPT just said to me because that was ridiculous. It's so dumb. It's so stupid. Oh, OpenAI. So Sam Altman needs to know about this. Yeah, that's just human nature. It's human nature. But the point is correct. Every time we say anything to ChatGPT or Gemini and have more than a 2 or 3 sentence conversation back and forth, we should have our minds blown. It's the Turing test we talked about since computers were new. He's right. He's right.
well, and the thing I would say, Chef David, is, and this is what all of our AI tips and tricks is, how do you leverage this tool? Like I get that, like the response, you can see there was like a lot of responses to this post, and not surprisingly, they were not following his mind-blowing, they were saying, well, if it could get, if it didn't get 30% of the things wrong. I think that that is way too pessimistic.
Oh, I agree.
Yes, we've talked about how AI gets things wrong and how twice baked potato and just different recipes to help you get the most out of it. But there's no way that it's getting 30% of the things that I do when you use the tool correctly. That's like, I think that that's the person that's, pounding in screws with the hammer and bitching about the fact that this isn't a very effective tool, right?
Yeah.
So
Hey,
I think the extremes are both wrong in this particular case.
here's a perfect example. We talked before about how I'm using Gemini to write the descriptions and do the timestamps for these videos. Once this video is
Right.
done, YouTube's going to make a transcript. I'm going to copy the transcript, say, "Hey Gemini, here's a transcript from the latest AI chefs. Please write the description with the timestamps." I did that last week and I forgot to click paste. So I just said, "Hey, here's the transcript of the last AI chefs. Please give me a description of the timestamps." Enter, and instead of saying, "Oh, this makes me crazy," see, I am mad. I'm still mad thinking about it. Instead of saying, "David, you forgot to post a transcript," it said, "Here's your description with the timestamps," and it made it all up. And I'm looking at
Oh,
it, and I cut it and I pasted it in. I'm like, "Wait a minute, it was an hour-long show, and there's only 30 minutes of timestamps." And I started reading the timestamps, like, we didn't talk about that. We didn't talk about. And then I said, "Oh my," and I very few people in real life have heard me use vulgarity out loud, but I typed vulgar words and I said,
oh,
"Did you vulgar actually make up an entire thing instead of simply just vulgar telling me
yeah, yeah,
that I
yeah.
forgot to do the transcript?" And of course, it was so sorry and apologetic and explained why I did it
Yeah.
and da da da. But that's the kind of thing that makes me unimpressed and underwhelmed. And the reality is, I should take a step back and say, the fact that it's even lying to me is amazing.
Well, and look, for all the other shows, including this show, you're going to paste in the transcript and it's going to save you a tremendous amount of time. And so, on balance, yes, we always say verify and only then trust. But, the truth is, it does some wonderful things. And I'd have to say that the announcements out of Ignite, if indeed we're going to have all of these agents, the billion agents in a handful, through 2 3 years, that Microsoft Foundry and Agent 365 is a great set of tools to help you manage all these agents. So if we are going to all become agent bosses, and this is what we don't know and how quickly that's going to occur, but certainly, Microsoft doubled down and released a whole series of tools that is is very well aligned to that report back to April of 2025 and their whole belief, expressed by Mustafa Suleyman and other execs that really this is the direction that things are going. So, we'll have to see, is it the Diablo 4 or Steve Jobs? But certainly I think both, it's easy to put a snappy comment and be negative or whatever. I think the internet kind of, and Reddit promotes that has a tendency to get upvoted on Reddit. But I think both extremes are probably wrong in this particular case. But it is certainly fascinating, and I'm sure you and I, as the AI chefs, will watch this evolve, and we'll probably have lots of recipes to deal with your agent workforce going
And
forward.
my real feeling on all this stuff that no one seems to understand what Microsoft's even talking about with its Agent 365 and Agent Foundry and agents watching agents and all this stuff. We talked offline about it and we dug into it, and it really we're not going to get into it now because it's long, but it really does make sense. And while it's fun to be like, oh my God, just make Windows 11 work, all this agent stuff is blah blah blah, and you're going to hear me doing a lot of it because it is fun. Um, if I had to put my money, 5 years we're going to look back and say, yeah, Agentic OS is obviously what we needed. These obviously they knew what they were doing. I don't see it right now, but I have a feeling that this is one of those things that we'll see it when it happens.
Yeah, and I agree. And it's like, if you're watching this and if you don't understand what this is, or what, I don't know, Foundry is, or DM me. I'm happy to explain it to you, because I spend a lot of time trying to, understand and simplify this. This reminds me back in the Microsoft OCS days, when I kind of came out and I ended up being seen as the Microsoft voice guru, because everybody was like, Microsoft knows nothing about voice. There's never going to be voice on Microsoft. And yet you could see that they had laid a good foundation that gave them an opportunity. It wasn't a given, but they had laid an appropriate framework and foundation, and they're willing to make long-term bets. Everybody jokes that you wait to the third revision of a Microsoft product. Well, the
Yep.
great thing is they have the fortitude and financial resources to get through to the third, whereas a startup a lot of times has to either fold or pivot, because if the first thing
You
out of
can't
the
afford
gate
to make
doesn't
so many
work, right?
mistakes. Yeah.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
so Microsoft is making a huge bet on this Agentic OS. Clearly, there's a lot of pushback, but I expect over the next several years, yes, they will refine and change things. Um, but I mean, at least if you're at all interested, read through some of the, not just the Reddit and tweets on X. Read some of the material and make your decision based on that. And hey, even maybe try creating your own agent, and see if it actually helps you. Because then you'll approach this more with a kind of informed point of view.
Excellent. All right. So for that, any final thoughts for the episode?
No, this is good. I think we'll try to put some of the links to some of these articles, and this, you can just Google Work Trend Index. It's a very fascinating report with, 31,000 participants. So there's a lot of good views, and yeah, take a look at some of the kind of source materials.
All right. Thank you, Kevin.
Well, thank you, Chef David.
And thank you everyone for watching. We'll be back next week. Take care.